Leonardo da Vinci is a name that transcends time, synonymous with brilliance, boundless curiosity, and an insatiable thirst for knowledge. He is often regarded as the ultimate Renaissance man, a title that speaks to his unparalleled versatility and achievements across numerous disciplines. Unlike many historical figures who are celebrated for their expertise in a single field, Leonardo's genius spanned art, science, engineering, anatomy, and beyond. His legacy endures not only in the masterpieces he left behind but in the very way he approached the world, always questioning, always experimenting, and always seeking to understand the underlying principles governing nature and human existence. The concept of the Renaissance man is rooted in the idea that knowledge should not be confined to one area but should instead be pursued broadly, integrating art, science, and philosophy. The Renaissance, which flourished in Europe between the 14th and 17th centuries, was an era of intellectual rebirth, where scholars, artists, and thinkers sought to rediscover and build upon the knowledge of ancient civilizations. Leonardo embodied this spirit more fully than any other individual of his time. His notebooks reveal a mind constantly at work, filled with sketches, anatomical studies, mathematical formulas, and engineering designs that were far ahead of their time. From the intricate details of human musculature to blueprints of machines resembling modern helicopters, Leonardo's ability to connect seemingly unrelated fields of study was nothing short of revolutionary. At the heart of Leonardo's genius was his insatiable curiosity. He did not accept things at face value. Instead, he studied, dissected, and analyzed everything around him. His approach to learning was deeply empirical. He relied on observation and experimentation rather than tradition or authority. Whether he was painting a masterpiece like the Mona Lisa or designing an elaborate system of canals, Leonardo was guided by a desire to understand the fundamental truths of the world. His notebooks are filled with questions. Why do the veins in leaves branch the way they do? How does the human eye perceive light and shadow? Which showcase his relentless pursuit of knowledge. He did not merely ask these questions. He sought to answer them through meticulous study and documentation. Leonardo's impact on art alone would have been enough to secure his place in history. His work revolutionized painting, introducing techniques that created an unprecedented sense of realism and depth. He mastered sfumato, a technique that allowed for subtle transitions between light and shadow, giving his portraits an almost lifelike quality. His use of perspective and composition influenced generations of artists, from his contemporaries like Michelangelo to modern painters who still study his methods. The Mona Lisa remains one of the most enigmatic and revered paintings in history, while The Last Supper captures not just a biblical scene but a moment of deep human emotion and psychological complexity. Beyond painting, Leonardo's contributions to science and engineering were extraordinary. His anatomical studies, based on detailed dissections of human cadavers, provided insights into the human body that predated modern medical discoveries. He documented the workings of muscles, bones, and internal organs with unparalleled accuracy, often drawing in ways that foreshadowed modern medical diagrams. His engineering designs included concepts for flying machines, armored vehicles, and intricate water systems, some of which would only become feasible centuries later. Though many of his inventions were never built in his lifetime, his ideas laid the groundwork for future technological advancements. One of the most remarkable aspects of Leonardo's work is how interconnected his pursuits were. He did not see art and science as separate disciplines but as complementary ways of understanding the world. His scientific observations informed his artistic techniques, allowing him to depict the human form with anatomical precision. Likewise, his artistic sensibility influenced his scientific studies, making his sketches not only informative but also visually stunning. This synthesis of disciplines is what truly set him apart. He was not just an artist, not just a scientist, but a visionary who saw the world in a holistic manner. Leonardo's influence extended beyond his own lifetime, shaping the course of both the Renaissance and modern thought. His notebooks, filled with thousands of pages of sketches and observations, have inspired generations of scientists, engineers, and artists. His work in hydraulics and mechanics laid the groundwork for later developments in engineering. His anatomical drawings informed medical studies well into the modern era. Even today, scientists and scholars continue to analyze his writings, uncovering new insights into his thought process and discoveries. This biography seeks to explore Leonardo da Vinci's life in detail, delving into his early years, his artistic masterpieces, his scientific inquiries, and his enduring impact on the world. It will examine not only what he achieved but how he thought, how he worked, and why he remains such a pivotal figure in history. By understanding Leonardo's mind and methods, we can gain insight into the nature of creativity and innovation itself. His story is one of relentless curiosity, boundless imagination, and a refusal to accept limits, qualities that continue to inspire those who seek to push the boundaries of knowledge and art. As we journey through Leonardo's life, we will explore the influences that shaped him, from his early training in Florence to his years under the patronage of powerful rulers. We will examine his most famous works, breaking down the techniques and ideas that made them revolutionary. We will also delve into his scientific and engineering pursuits, uncovering the visionary ideas that made him one of history's most brilliant minds. Finally, we will consider his legacy, how his work continues to impact our understanding of art, science, and human potential. Leonardo da Vinci was not just a man of his time. He was a man ahead of his time. His ideas, once seen as dreams or impossibilities, have become realities in the modern world. His approach to learning, observing, questioning, experimenting, remains the foundation of scientific inquiry. His art continues to captivate audiences. His engineering sketches foreshadowed technological revolutions, and his understanding of the natural world still inspires awe. To study Leonardo is to study the very essence of human creativity, and his story is one that continues to be told generation after generation. Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 15, 1452, in the small town of Vinci, nestled in the rolling hills of Tuscany, Italy. His birth was not marked by the grandeur often associated with historical figures of his stature. Rather, he was born out of wedlock to Ser Piero da Vinci, a respected notary, and a woman named Caterina, who is believed to have been a peasant or possibly even a slave of Middle Eastern origin. Despite his illegitimacy, which could have been a social hindrance at the time, Leonardo was not completely deprived of opportunity. His father, a man of considerable means and influence, ensured that he received a reasonable education, though he was not given the full privileges that a legitimate son might have enjoyed. The Italy of Leonardo's childhood was a land of remarkable cultural transformation. The 15th century marked the height of the Renaissance, a period characterized by a revival of classical learning, advancements in the arts and sciences, and an overall spirit of intellectual curiosity. This was an era that encouraged individuals to expand their knowledge across multiple disciplines, a philosophy that would later define Leonardo's entire existence. Florence, located just a short distance from Vinci, was the beating heart of this cultural and artistic movement, home to thinkers, artists, and scientists who were reshaping the way humanity perceived the world. From an early age, Leonardo displayed an intense curiosity about the natural world. He would spend hours observing the movement of water, the structure of plants, and the way birds flew through the sky. Unlike many children of his time, whose learning was confined to rigid academic structures, Leonardo's education was shaped by his environment and his relentless inquisitiveness. While he did not receive a formal classical education, which meant he lacked proficiency in Latin and Greek, the scholarly languages of the time, he more than compensated for this with an instinctive understanding of the world around him. His notebooks, which he began keeping as a young man, would later reveal an astonishing breadth of observation, filled with meticulous sketches and annotations detailing everything from human anatomy to the motion of celestial bodies. Recognizing his son's artistic talent, Ser Piero arranged for Leonardo to apprentice under Andrea del Verrocchio, one of the most renowned artists in Florence. Verrocchio's workshop was a hub of creative energy, attracting talented young painters and sculptors eager to learn the trade. It was here that Leonardo received his first formal training, honing his skills in drawing, painting, and sculpting. Verrocchio himself was a master of multiple disciplines, including metalworking and engineering, and his diverse expertise likely influenced Leonardo's own wide-ranging interests. The workshop provided Leonardo with not only technical training but also exposure to some of the most influential artistic minds of the time. He worked alongside other gifted apprentices, learning techniques such as the use of perspective, the study of human anatomy for accurate depictions, and the importance of light and shadow in creating depth. Verrocchio was known for his meticulous attention to detail, a trait that Leonardo absorbed and later perfected in his own work. It is even said that when Leonardo painted an angel in Verrocchio's Baptism of Christ, the master was so impressed by his pupil's skill that he vowed never to paint again. Whether or not this story is apocryphal, it illustrates the sheer talent that Leonardo exhibited from a young age. Florence, during the time of Leonardo's apprenticeship, was a city brimming with artistic and intellectual vibrancy. The Medici family, who ruled the city, were generous patrons of the arts and sciences, supporting individuals such as Michelangelo, Botticelli, and philosophers like Marsilio Ficino. This environment allowed for an extraordinary cross-pollination of ideas, where artists conversed with mathematicians, and engineers drew inspiration from the natural world. Leonardo thrived in this setting, absorbing knowledge like a sponge and pushing the boundaries of what was considered possible in art and design. One of the defining aspects of Leonardo's early development was his fascination with nature. Unlike many of his contemporaries, who viewed art as merely a means of representation, Leonardo sought to understand the underlying principles that governed the world. He spent countless hours sketching plants, animals, and landscapes, not merely to replicate their appearance but to uncover their secrets. This deep engagement with the natural world would later manifest in his scientific explorations, where he meticulously studied the flow of water, the mechanics of flight, and the anatomy of both humans and animals. Beyond his artistic training, Leonardo's education was largely self-directed. While many Renaissance scholars were deeply entrenched in classical texts, Leonardo relied on observation and experience. His notebooks from this period reveal an intense curiosity about mechanics, architecture, and the movement of the human body. Even at a young age, he displayed an almost obsessive drive to document his findings, filling pages with sketches and notes that were as scientific as they were artistic. This period of Leonardo's life coincided with the height of the Renaissance, a time when humanism was reshaping European thought. The Renaissance was rooted in the idea that man had limitless potential and that knowledge could be pursued across multiple disciplines. This was a departure from the medieval worldview, which had often emphasized religious doctrine over empirical investigation. The rediscovery of classical texts from ancient Greece and Rome fueled an intellectual movement that celebrated human achievement, reason, and artistic expression. Florence, in particular, was a city that embodied these ideals. Under the Medici's rule, it became a center for scholarship, with artists and scientists benefiting from a culture that encouraged experimentation and intellectual discourse. Renaissance artists were no longer mere craftsmen. They were scholars and visionaries who sought to push the boundaries of what was possible. Figures like Filippo Brunelleschi, who designed the breathtaking dome of the Florence Cathedral, and Leon Battista Alberti, a polymath whose writings on architecture and art influenced generations to come, exemplified the Renaissance ethos. Leonardo, deeply immersed in this culture, absorbed these influences and made them his own. He was not content to merely follow tradition. He sought to innovate and understand. His belief in the power of observation and experimentation placed him ahead of his time, aligning him more closely with the scientific revolution that would emerge a century later than with the artistic traditions of his own era. One of the most important aspects of the Renaissance was the concept of patronage. Artists, scientists, and thinkers relied on wealthy patrons to fund their work, allowing them to pursue ambitious projects without financial constraints. The Medici family, as well as other powerful patrons, played a crucial role in shaping the careers of Renaissance figures. While Leonardo's early years in Florence saw him working primarily as an apprentice, he was keenly aware of the importance of securing patronage for his future endeavors. Throughout his life, he would seek the support of powerful rulers and wealthy benefactors, from the Duke of Milan to King Francis I of France. As Leonardo emerged from his formative years, he was already displaying the qualities that would define his later career: an insatiable curiosity, an ability to merge art and science, and an unparalleled skill in capturing the beauty and complexity of the world. His time in Verrocchio's workshop had given him a strong foundation in artistic technique, but more importantly, it had introduced him to the idea that art could be a means of inquiry, a tool for exploring the mysteries of nature and the human experience. By the time he set out on his own as an artist, Leonardo was not just a painter. He was a thinker, an inventor, and an explorer of ideas. The Renaissance had provided him with an environment that nurtured his talents, but it was his own relentless pursuit of knowledge that would set him apart. He was not merely a product of his time. He was a force that would shape the future of art, science, and human understanding. His early life and education had laid the foundation for a career that would redefine the very limits of creativity and intellect, marking him as one of the greatest minds in history. Leonardo da Vinci was not only an artist of extraordinary talent but also one of the most inquisitive minds in history. His scientific curiosity knew no bounds, and he pursued knowledge with an intensity that set him apart from his contemporaries. He saw the world not just as an artist but as an investigator, driven to understand the underlying principles of life, nature, and mechanics. His approach to science was deeply observational, relying on first-hand study rather than existing theories. While he never formally published his discoveries, his meticulous notebooks, filled with thousands of pages of sketches and annotations, reveal a mind centuries ahead of its time. One of Leonardo's greatest passions was the study of human anatomy. His fascination with the human body was not limited to its aesthetic representation in art. He sought to understand how it functioned. His anatomical studies were groundbreaking, blending scientific rigor with artistic mastery. He dissected numerous cadavers, an unusual practice for an artist, and carefully documented his findings with astonishingly detailed sketches. These drawings, rendered with remarkable precision, depicted bones, muscles, tendons, and internal organs in a way that had never been seen before. Unlike many anatomists of his time, who worked from second-hand sources or religious interpretations, Leonardo insisted on direct observation, believing that true knowledge could only come from studying nature itself. His anatomical work extended beyond mere structure. He sought to understand movement and function. He studied the mechanics of muscles, the way tendons stretched and contracted, and the intricate workings of the heart. His dissections of the human heart led him to propose theories about circulation that predated William Harvey's discoveries by over a century. He observed the spiral structure of heart valves and correctly hypothesized how they controlled blood flow, an insight that modern scientists would later confirm. His studies of the brain, eye, and nervous system revealed an advanced understanding of sensory perception, showing how visual information was processed. Leonardo's contributions to medicine, while never fully appreciated in his lifetime, were profound. His anatomical drawings could have revolutionized medical education had they been published. Instead, they remained hidden in his notebooks for centuries, only rediscovered long after his death. Today, his sketches are recognized as some of the most detailed and accurate representations of the human body ever made during the Renaissance, influencing medical illustration and anatomical studies for generations. Beyond anatomy, Leonardo's genius extended to engineering and invention. He was captivated by mechanics, always seeking to understand how machines functioned and how they could be improved. His notebooks are filled with designs that anticipate modern technological advancements. Among his most famous inventions were his designs for flying machines, inspired by his meticulous study of birds and bats. He analyzed the movement of wings, air resistance, and the mechanics of flight, creating sketches of ornithopters, machines designed to mimic bird flight. Though these devices were never built successfully in his time, they laid the foundation for future aeronautical engineering. His mechanical genius was not confined to flight. Leonardo conceptualized machines for warfare, including an armored vehicle that can be seen as a precursor to the modern tank. This design featured a circular armored shell with cannons arranged around its exterior, meant to provide 360-degree defense. Though it was never built due to practical limitations, the concept demonstrated his forward-thinking approach to military engineering. He also devised advanced artillery, machine-like crossbows, and siege engines, showcasing his ability to blend art with function. Leonardo's engineering brilliance extended to hydraulic systems. He designed intricate canal systems, water pumps, and irrigation devices, many of which were aimed at improving agriculture and city planning. His fascination with water was particularly evident in his studies of hydrodynamics. He observed how water flowed through rivers, how waves formed, and how currents interacted with obstacles. His sketches include detailed diagrams of whirlpools, eddies, and water vortices, illustrating a deep understanding of fluid dynamics long before the scientific field was formally established. He proposed ideas for controlling rivers, preventing floods, and optimizing water flow. Ideas that could have significantly advanced civil engineering had they been implemented. His curiosity extended into geology and botany as well. He meticulously studied rock formations, fossils, and the layers of the earth, proposing theories that challenged prevailing religious interpretations. He suggested that fossils found in mountains were remnants of ancient sea life, indicating that landscapes had changed over time. This insight foreshadowed later developments in geology and evolutionary theory. In botany, he observed plant structures, the way leaves were arranged, and how trees grew in response to light and gravity. His studies of tree rings and plant vascular systems revealed insights into growth patterns that modern botanists would later confirm. One of Leonardo's defining traits was his ability to see connections between disciplines. To him, art and science were not separate fields but intertwined aspects of understanding reality. He applied mathematical principles to art, using geometry to create perspective and proportion. Similarly, he applied artistic sensibilities to science, using detailed illustrations to document his observations. His scientific sketches were not just functional, they were works of art, capturing the beauty of nature with unparalleled precision. Despite his vast contributions, Leonardo's scientific work remained largely unknown during his lifetime. Unlike other Renaissance figures who published their findings, he never compiled his research into a comprehensive scientific treatise. This was partly due to his perfectionist nature. He constantly refined his ideas, always seeking more knowledge before committing them to a final form. His habit of writing in mirror script, a technique that made his notes difficult to read, also contributed to their obscurity. It was only centuries later that scholars began to recognize the depth of his scientific achievements. Leonardo da Vinci was not merely an inventor, scientist, or artist. He was a visionary who saw the world in a way few others did. His relentless pursuit of knowledge, combined with his ability to merge science and art, made him a true Renaissance man. His anatomical studies advanced medical understanding. His engineering designs foreshadowed modern machinery, and his observations of nature provided insights that science would later validate. Though his discoveries were not widely known in his time, his legacy endures as a testament to the power of curiosity, observation, and imagination. Leonardo da Vinci's career was deeply intertwined with the shifting political and cultural landscapes of Italy. As a master artist, engineer, and scientist, he found patrons among the most powerful rulers of his time, including the Medici in Florence and the Sforza in Milan. His work extended beyond painting, encompassing military engineering, scientific studies, and architectural designs. The Italian courts provided Leonardo with opportunities to explore his diverse interests, though he often struggled with the expectations and demands of his patrons. His time in Florence, Milan, Venice, and Rome shaped his artistic evolution and contributed to his enduring legacy. In Florence, Leonardo's early career was closely linked with the Medici family, one of the most influential patrons of the Renaissance. Lorenzo de' Medici, known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, was a key figure in Florentine politics and culture. Though Leonardo did not receive direct commissions from Lorenzo, He benefited from the Medici's support in securing artistic and engineering projects. Florence was a thriving intellectual hub, and under Lorenzo's rule, it attracted some of the greatest minds of the era. It was here that Leonardo's artistic and scientific curiosity flourished, influenced by the city's rich tradition of humanism and artistic innovation. Despite his Florentine connections, Leonardo sought greater opportunities beyond the city. His ambitions led him to Milan in the 1480s, where he entered the service of Ludovico Sforza, also known as Ludovico il Moro. The Sforza family ruled Milan, and Ludovico was eager to enhance his court's prestige by attracting the most talented artists and engineers. Leonardo presented himself not just as a painter but as a military engineer, emphasizing his ability to design fortifications, weapons, and innovative machines of war. His letter to Ludovico outlined his skills, focusing on military technology before even mentioning his artistic abilities. Under Ludovico's patronage, Leonardo produced some of his most famous works, including The Last Supper, which remains one of the greatest masterpieces of Western art. This fresco, painted in the refectory of the convent of Santa Maria del Grazie, showcased his mastery of perspective, composition, and human expression. However, Leonardo's time in Milan was not solely devoted to art. He also worked on architectural and engineering projects, designing fortifications and hydraulic systems. His notebooks from this period contain sketches of war machines, including a giant crossbow, armored vehicles, and innovative siege weapons. While many of these designs were never built, they demonstrate his forward-thinking approach to military technology. During his time in Milan, Leonardo also worked on an ambitious equestrian statue commissioned by Ludovico Sforza. The project, known as the Gran Cavallo, was intended to be the largest horse sculpture ever created. Leonardo spent years studying the anatomy of horses and designing complex casting techniques for the bronze statue. Unfortunately, the project was never completed due to political instability. When Milan was invaded by French forces in 1499, Ludovico was overthrown, and the bronze meant for the statue was repurposed for cannons. The fall of the Sforza court forced Leonardo to leave Milan and seek new patrons. After leaving Milan, Leonardo traveled extensively, working for various rulers and exploring new artistic and scientific pursuits. In Venice, he was employed as a military consultant, designing defensive structures to protect the city from potential invasions. His knowledge of hydraulics and engineering made him a valuable asset, and he proposed plans for fortifications and canals. He also continued his anatomical studies, dissecting human and animal bodies to refine his understanding of form and function. Rome became another important destination for Leonardo, though his time there was marked by both opportunities and challenges. He worked under the patronage of Pope Leo X, a member of the Medici family. While in Rome, he engaged in various projects including studies of optics, anatomy, and mechanics. However, he faced increasing rivalry from younger artists such as Michelangelo and Raphael. Michelangelo, in particular, was openly critical of Leonardo, dismissing his scientific pursuits as distractions from true artistic achievement. Their rivalry became especially evident when both artists were commissioned to create murals in Florence's Palazzo Vecchio. While Michelangelo completed his work, Leonardo abandoned his project, frustrated by technical difficulties. Despite these tensions, Leonardo continued to push the boundaries of artistic and scientific exploration. He experimented with new painting techniques, studied fluid dynamics, and worked on ambitious urban planning projects. His ability to move between disciplines set him apart from his contemporaries, but it also made his career unpredictable. Unlike Michelangelo and Raphael, who enjoyed steady commissions, Leonardo's perfectionism and wide-ranging interests often led to unfinished projects. In the later years of his career, Leonardo found refuge in France, where he entered the service of King Francis I. The French king admired Leonardo's genius and granted him a residence at the Château du Clos-Luz. In France, Leonardo continued his scientific inquiries and worked on engineering projects, though he painted less frequently. One of the last works he brought with him to France was Mona Lisa, a portrait that would become the most famous painting in history. Leonardo's time in the courts of Italy and beyond shaped his legacy as a Renaissance polymath. His relationships with patrons such as Lorenzo de' Medici, Ludovico Sforza, and Pope Leo X provided him with opportunities to explore art, science, and engineering. However, his career was often disrupted by political upheaval, personal rivalries, and his own perfectionist tendencies. While many of his projects remained unfinished, his impact on multiple fields remains unparalleled. His work influenced generations of artists, scientists, and engineers, securing his place as one of history's greatest minds. Leonardo da Vinci's final years were marked by both reverence and reflection. After decades of working for various patrons across Italy, he found his last and perhaps most peaceful refuge in France under the patronage of King Francis I. Unlike his earlier years, which were often filled with ambitious projects left incomplete due to political upheaval or personal perfectionism, his time in France was more contemplative. He was no longer as active in painting but instead focused on compiling his scientific studies, refining his ideas, and mentoring young artists and scholars. Despite physical ailments, Leonardo remained intellectually vibrant until his last breath, leaving behind an unparalleled legacy. His move to France was initiated by an invitation from Francis I, who admired Leonardo not only as an artist but as a true Renaissance genius. At the time, Francis I was seeking to establish France as a leading cultural and intellectual center of Europe, drawing inspiration from the artistic achievements of Italy. In 1516, Leonardo, then in his 60s, accepted the king's offer and traveled to France, bringing with him some of his most prized possessions, including the Mona Lisa, which would later become the most famous painting in the world. In France, Leonardo was granted a residence at the Château du Clos-Luz, a picturesque manor near the king's palace at Amboise. The château, surrounded by lush landscapes and tranquil gardens, provided Leonardo with a serene environment where he could spend his final years in contemplation. Unlike previous patrons, Francis I did not impose demanding artistic commissions on Leonardo. Instead, he treated him as a revered intellectual, seeking his counsel on various matters of art, science, and engineering. The king frequently visited Leonardo, engaging in conversations about philosophy, anatomy, and the nature of the universe. It was a rare period in Leonardo's life when he was truly valued for the breadth of his genius, rather than just for his artistic skill. During his time at Clos-Luz, Leonardo focused primarily on his scientific investigations. Although his health was deteriorating, he suffered from partial paralysis in his right hand. His mind remained sharp. He continued to work on his anatomical studies, exploring the mechanics of the human body, and revisited his notes on engineering and hydraulics. His fascination with the movement of water, which had occupied him since his time in Italy, led him to design elaborate canal systems, bridges, and irrigation projects. Many of his notebooks from this period contain sketches and theoretical discussions on these topics, further showcasing his ability to merge art and science. One of the most significant aspects of Leonardo's time in France was his influence on the French Renaissance. He introduced Italian artistic techniques, including sfumato and chiaroscuro, which would later be adopted by French painters. His presence also inspired a new generation of artists and thinkers, some of whom would carry forward his ideas in both painting and scientific exploration. The Renaissance ideals that Leonardo embodied, curiosity, observation, and interdisciplinary study, found fertile ground in France, contributing to the nation's artistic and intellectual development. Despite his productive years in France, Leonardo's health continued to decline. On May 2, 1519, at the age of 67, he passed away in his residence at Clos-Luz. His death was mourned by many, including King Francis I, who is said to have held him in the highest esteem. Although there are romanticized legends suggesting that Francis I was present at Leonardo's deathbed, historical accounts remain unclear. What is certain, however, is that Leonardo's passing marked the end of an era. He was one of the last true Renaissance polymaths, a man whose genius spanned art, science, engineering, and philosophy. Leonardo was buried in the chapel of Saint Hubert in Amboise. Over the centuries, his tomb has been visited by admirers and scholars alike, each seeking to pay homage to the man who epitomized the boundless potential of human intellect. However, due to the passage of time and historical upheavals, the exact location of his remains remains a subject of debate. Regardless of where he rests, his legacy endures in the vast body of work he left behind. Leonardo's influence did not wane after his death. Rather, it grew exponentially. His notebooks, filled with intricate sketches, anatomical studies, and engineering blueprints, became a source of inspiration for future generations. Although many of his scientific discoveries remained unpublished during his lifetime, they were rediscovered centuries later, revealing the full extent of his visionary thinking. His anatomical drawings, for example, were far ahead of his time, accurately depicting muscles, organs, and even the human fetus with a precision that would not be matched until modern medical imaging. In the centuries following his death, Leonardo's work influenced countless artists, scientists, and inventors. During the Baroque period, artists such as Rembrandt and Caravaggio drew inspiration from his mastery of light and shadow. In the scientific revolution of the 17th century, thinkers like Galileo and Newton echoed his emphasis on observation and empirical study. Even in the modern era, Leonardo's designs for flying machines, tanks, and hydraulic systems have been examined through the lens of contemporary engineering, with some of his concepts proving to be astonishingly prescient. Perhaps the most profound aspect of Leonardo's legacy is his embodiment of the Renaissance ideal, a relentless pursuit of knowledge across multiple disciplines. He was not content with excelling in just one field. Instead, he saw the interconnectedness of all human endeavors. His artistic techniques were informed by his studies of anatomy. His engineering designs were shaped by his understanding of nature, and his scientific inquiries were driven by his artistic sensibilities. This holistic approach to learning continues to inspire scholars, artists, and scientists today. Leonardo's notebooks, which contain over 7,000 pages of drawings and observations, remain one of the most valuable intellectual treasures in human history. These pages offer a glimpse into the mind of a man who was centuries ahead of his time, contemplating ideas that would later become fundamental to modern science and technology. From his studies of fluid dynamics to his sketches of mechanical devices, his writings serve as a testament to the power of curiosity and the limitless potential of human creativity. Even in popular culture, Leonardo da Vinci remains an enduring figure. His life and works have been the subject of numerous books, films, and documentaries, each exploring different facets of his genius. The Mona Lisa, housed in the Louvre Museum, continues to captivate millions of visitors every year, its enigmatic smile symbolizing the mystery and depth of Leonardo's intellect. His Vitruvian Man has become an iconic representation of the blend of art and science, illustrating the harmony between human proportions and mathematical principles. In many ways, Leonardo's legacy transcends time. He is not merely a historical figure but a symbol of human potential. The idea that curiosity, creativity, and knowledge can drive progress in ways that were once thought impossible. His life serves as a reminder that true genius does not confine itself to a single field, but instead explores the vast interconnected web of human understanding. Whether in art, science, engineering, or philosophy, Leonardo da Vinci's contributions continue to shape the world, making him not just a Renaissance man, but a timeless inspiration for generations to come. Leonardo da Vinci remains one of the most extraordinary figures in human history, a man whose brilliance defied categorization and whose legacy continues to inspire across centuries. His achievements spanned a vast array of disciplines: art, science, engineering, anatomy, and philosophy, demonstrating a level of intellectual curiosity and creativity that few have ever matched. He was the quintessential Renaissance man, embodying the spirit of exploration and discovery that defined the era. More than 500 years after his death, his work remains not only relevant but profoundly influential, shaping modern thought in ways he could have never imagined. One of the defining aspects of Leonardo's brilliance was his ability to see connections between seemingly disparate fields. He did not view art and science as separate domains but rather as complementary aspects of human understanding. His artistic mastery was informed by his deep knowledge of anatomy, physics, and optics, allowing him to create works of astonishing realism and emotional depth. At the same time, his scientific inquiries were driven by an artist's sensitivity to form, structure, and beauty. This synthesis of disciplines was not merely an intellectual exercise. It was the foundation of his genius. Leonardo's paintings, particularly the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, stand as unparalleled masterpieces in the history of art. The Mona Lisa remains the most famous and studied painting in the world, captivating audiences with its enigmatic smile and revolutionary use of sfumato, a technique that blended colors and tones seamlessly. The Last Supper, painted on the walls of the convent of Santa Maria del Grazie in Milan, is a marvel of composition and emotional storytelling, capturing the psychological tension of Christ's final meal with his disciples. These works are not only artistic triumphs but also testaments to Leonardo's deep understanding of human emotion, perspective, and light. Yet, his contributions extended far beyond painting. Leonardo was an obsessive observer of the natural world, and his notebooks are filled with detailed sketches of plants, animals, human anatomy, and mechanical inventions. His anatomical drawings, based on meticulous dissections of human cadavers, were centuries ahead of their time, providing insights into the structure of muscles, organs, and the circulatory system that would not be fully appreciated until the advent of modern medical science. His engineering sketches, including designs for flying machines, tanks, and water pumps, showcased a visionary mind capable of conceptualizing technologies that would not be realized until centuries later. One of the most remarkable aspects of Leonardo's work is how forward-thinking it was. While many of his ideas remained unrealized during his lifetime, they foreshadowed advancements in fields as diverse as aviation, hydraulics, and robotics. His drawings of ornithopters, inspired by the flight of birds, anticipated the principles of modern aerodynamics. His studies of water movement and fluid dynamics laid the groundwork for later developments in hydrology and engineering. Even his sketches of mechanical devices, such as gears, pulleys, and levers, bear a striking resemblance to modern industrial machinery. Leonardo was, in many ways, a scientist and engineer working in an age that lacked the tools and materials to bring his ideas to full fruition. Despite his staggering intellect and boundless curiosity, Leonardo was also a man of contradictions. He was known for leaving projects unfinished, often moving on to new ideas before completing the ones he had already started. His notebooks are filled with ambitious plans that never materialized, not due to lack of ability but rather because his mind was constantly racing ahead to the next great discovery. Some historians speculate that his perfectionism prevented him from completing certain works. He was never fully satisfied with his creations, always striving for greater accuracy and deeper understanding. This trait, while frustrating for his patrons, is also what makes his work so endlessly fascinating. He was not simply producing art or science for the sake of it. He was searching for truth, attempting to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Leonardo's legacy is not just one of artistic and scientific achievement, but also of intellectual curiosity and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. His notebooks, which contain thousands of pages of observations, sketches, and theories, serve as a lasting monument to the power of inquiry. They remind us that knowledge is not confined to rigid disciplines but is an ever-expanding web of interconnected ideas. In an age where specialization is often encouraged, Leonardo's example serves as an argument for the value of interdisciplinary thinking, the notion that true innovation arises at the intersection of different fields. The relevance of Leonardo's work today cannot be overstated. His artistic techniques continue to be studied and emulated by painters. His scientific ideas have influenced modern research, and his engineering designs have inspired countless inventors. Even in the digital age, where artificial intelligence and biotechnology are reshaping the world, Leonardo's approach to learning, rooted in observation, experimentation, and creativity, remains as valuable as ever. His ability to bridge the gap between art and science offers lessons for contemporary scholars, artists, and engineers alike. Moreover, Leonardo's life story serves as an enduring source of inspiration. Born as the illegitimate son of a notary in the small town of Vinci, he had no formal education in Latin or Greek, the traditional languages of scholarship at the time. Yet, through sheer determination and an insatiable thirst for knowledge, he became one of the most revered figures of the Renaissance. His journey is a testament to the idea that genius is not solely a product of formal education but rather of curiosity, persistence, and the willingness to question conventional wisdom. Leonardo's influence extends far beyond the realms of academia and art history. He has become a cultural icon, symbolizing human ingenuity and limitless potential. His works continue to be the subject of countless books, films, and exhibitions, ensuring that his legacy endures in popular imagination. The Mona Lisa, housed in the Louvre Museum, attracts millions of visitors every year, each drawn by the mystery and mastery of Leonardo's brushwork. His Vitruvian Man, a study of human proportions, has become an emblem of the harmony between science and art. Even his unfinished projects, from ambitious city plans to unrealized sculptures, serve as reminders of a mind that never ceased to dream. Beyond his tangible contributions, perhaps Leonardo's greatest legacy is his philosophy of learning. He approached the world with a childlike sense of wonder, constantly asking questions and seeking answers. His notebooks reveal a mind that was never content with surface-level explanations. He wanted to understand the inner workings of everything, from the motion of planets to the anatomy of the human eye. In an era where rapid technological advancements are reshaping society, Leonardo's emphasis on curiosity, observation, and hands-on experimentation remains as relevant as ever. His life serves as a reminder that knowledge should not be compartmentalized but rather explored in all its richness and complexity. As we look to the future, Leonardo da Vinci's example offers valuable lessons for innovation and creativity. In a world increasingly driven by artificial intelligence, automation, and scientific breakthroughs, his interdisciplinary approach to knowledge can help guide the next generation of thinkers and creators. His ability to merge art and science, intuition and logic, remains a model for those seeking to push the boundaries of human understanding. Whether in the realms of medicine, space exploration, or artificial intelligence, Leonardo's spirit of inquiry continues to inspire. Ultimately, Leonardo da Vinci's genius lies not just in what he accomplished but in how he thought. His mind was a laboratory of endless possibilities, his curiosity an engine that drove him to explore the unknown. He was not merely a painter, a scientist, or an inventor. He was all of these and more, a man whose legacy transcends time and discipline. His work reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge is a lifelong endeavor, and that true brilliance lies in the ability to see beyond the ordinary and into the infinite possibilities of the universe. More than 5 centuries after his death, Leonardo da Vinci remains a towering figure in human history, an enduring testament to the power of creativity, curiosity, and intellectual courage. His life and work continue to shape the way we see the world, reminding us that the boundaries between art and science, imagination and reality, are not as rigid as they seem. In the end, his greatest contribution may not be any single painting, invention, or discovery, but rather the inspiration he provides to all who seek to understand, create, and dream.